from the county. That's nice to see. So I'm going to talk for maybe 25 minutes, share some history, review some possible choices, and asking you some questions, and then taking some questions and input from you to share with others of interest. Okay, this community treasures situation is much more complicated than it seems on the surface. And I do want to see other people wandering in, so yeah, the door's on. And it's due to, the complication is due to the various interested and affected entities and the personal conflict that has continued to grow over the years between the county and Penwell since actually 1978 over the use of the property community treasures operates on. And so it's important to know who those entities are. And the 7 most affected entities are the trust, which is the legal owner of the property and has the fiscal responsibilities to the beneficiaries. And it's the entity that has the current liabilities for the property the community treasures operates on. And then there's the trustees and beneficiaries running the trust. And they're the ones who control the trust's future decisions and assets. And they are kind of like a board of directors of a business in that the trustees will change over time. And then there's the community treasurer's board of directors who are responsible for the nonprofit decisions. And speaking of which, we do have one of the board of directors over there, Dwight Ware. Thank you for coming, Dwight. And then there are the citizens, and they're the ones who use, benefit, and rely on community treasures the most. And then there's the employees, the ones working daily at community treasures. And then there's the county, and that's the governmental body that regulates policies and controls community treasures land use. And then, last but not least, is the county staff and management. They do not always operate to the directives of the county council. And as staff changes, their interpretation of county regulations sometimes change, which creates issues like in 2013 when staff closed down some of the community treasures buildings that we were operating in. Okay, the community treasures is at a crossroads that will determine if it's going to be a permanent, perpetual organization or fall by the wayside like so many past community ideas. And as individuals, we may feel insignificant or incapable of making much of a difference. But as an organized group, one can make a difference and have a choice. For example, Lopez and Orcas have shown what can be done with recycling in their communities through the exchange on Orcas and take it or leave it on Lopez. And in 2011, a Facebook group on this island helped pressure the county council into writing a special resolution that kept community treasures open. So basically, those of you who are here who have taken the time to show an interest and participate are the ones who may determine the future of some of the recycling choices for our Salmon Island community. And a picture is worth 1,000 words. And I'm going to use that picture over there on the wall that my granddaughter, Sage, did to explain some history of where Community Treasures is and how it arrived here. This drawing symbolizes the trust position as the little person in the picture behind the ball. And what you see here is the last 12 years of Community Treasures operations. The ball in the picture is getting bigger for each year because it shows the tons of recycling for each of the 12 years. And the elevation changes represent historical resistance to Community Treasures activities. And it shows the mounting burden on the trust and how the county's lack of interest and lack of support have affected the Community Treasures activities. So at the very bottom there on the left, You can see a very small ball, 2 tons is what it says. And it was when we started as an outreach of the Lions Club when we served ROAR program, and ROAR stood for Reach Out and Recycle. This was the start of our island trying to get something going like Orcas and Lopez and encouraging recycling on San Juan Island. And it started as aluminum cans to earn money for Lions Club programs. And it expanded to a thrift shop and recycling center, which was, at that time was called Consignment Treasures. And then in 2005, Community Treasures, I'm going to call it Community Treasures even though it was Consignment Treasures because people are just really confused and I want to try to hammer in the word community. They saw the need for increased recycling and planned ahead by adding 2 new buildings. Actually, they wasn't just planning. The county had decided that since they were changing what they were doing from building wholesale products place to recycling, they actually wanted them to get a new cup. And if you're going to spend the money to get a cup, you better have something to go along with it.
Right,
So,
you should explain what a cup is to them.
oh, good. Conditional use permit. Thank you, Nancy. I'll try to get rid of the acronyms. So, in 2006, Community Treasures received the thrift shop recycling cup with no objections from the county or any neighbors. And in 2007, recession hit, and aluminum can prices, as well as all the other recycling, went south. And price went to 10 cents, and then it went to 0. And then one day I got a call from Skagit Steel, and they said, call before you bring your next load, and we'll tell you if you have to bring a check to be rid of your aluminum cans. And of course, the Lions Club is all about making money for their projects, not losing money. So they gave up the program, but I kept it going, even though it was costing me monthly, because I believed it was the right thing to do, and I'm passionate about recycling. So for the next year or 2, I paid to have the county's aluminum cans recycled. Now in 2008, the county promised to change Community Treasures land use designation at the same time that they were going to change the Beaverton Valley property designation for their planned Trash to Treasures program. But then the next year, 2009, the council voted against their Trash to Treasures plan for the Beaverton Valley site. And so the county sent Helen Bonato to me, and she begged me to do the county e-recycling. She said she'd been to all the other islands and talked to all the other businesses, and nobody was willing to do it. And it was state law that required the county to have an e-recycling facility. So I dropped my shoulders and okay, here's another project in need for the community, and that's what this is about. So we took it on. And then in 2010, I became aware that the county staff decided not to change the land use of Community Treasures. In hindsight, it is now my opinion that the county felt that they are the only ones who have the right to future commercial or industrial land use sites. So 2011, despite the county planning department's 2011 recommendations and findings, the county worked towards changing regulations to restrict recycling activities and commercial enterprises. The county also worked on language to make land use violations a criminal offense. Here is a quote from the 2011 Planning Commission. Quote, "The Planning Commission finds that there is an insufficient quantity of appropriately designated land to accommodate future essential public facility demand, and to recommend to the county council that the county identify and redesignate land that can be appropriately designated for rural industrial and urban industrial uses." And that's the end of that quote. But to really hammer that point down, This is a county comprehensive land use map. See this deep red? That's the color of rural industrial. Can anybody see any rural industrial on this map? Well, there is one spot. It's a little dot. Genshin's Shipyard. They were smart enough to get an attorney back in those days and insist that their property was designated properly. Okay, rural industrial. That's the brown. Does anybody see any brown on this map? Well, there is. It's the county dump. They own the property, so they made it rural industrial, so they could do it. And one of the reasons this is done is it's all about power and control. Ecology says non-conforming property, the definition of it is, let's see if I can get this exactly right, undesirable and to be eliminated over time. And that means they can go in anytime they feel like, find things wrong, and give you heartache and panics and cost you lots of money. And I could go into examples of that, how they cost community treasures about $45,000 in 2012 or 13, whatever that was, but that's getting off the road. I just want to make it clear that you understand there's a reason to have it. Planning Commission recognizes it, but the county won't do it. Okay, 2012, the county voted to move the goalposts. They made community treasures activities non-conforming, and they made land use violations criminal acts. So in August I wrote, quote, I wrote to the county council, if the county forces community treasures to take out another conditional use permit or to make community treasures non-conforming, I will give up my volunteer services and recommend to the Community Treasures Board that they close down community treasures. And that's when the Facebook started up and 800 and something people got on in 1 week. So under public pressure, the county wrote a special resolution for community treasures. And they made promises to change community treasures land use designation and list the community treasures site as an essential public facility. This was done by a formal county council motion to support community treasures, a phone call, and an email from Shireen Hale to me, and an email by past county councilman Howie Rosenfeld to a couple of his constituents. The clear intentions were to correct the land use designation, list community treasures as an essential public facility, to protect the community treasures activities by making them conforming. So 2013, what do? Staff charged community treasures with land use violations and demanded that community treasures take out a fourth cut. With the support of the county manager's verbal and written recommendations to county council in support of changing community treasures land use designation and pressure from the community to keep community treasures open, the trust applied for the fourth conditional use permit. As time went along, it became clear to me that the county council was treating community treasures differently than other groups, like the Exchange, the Farmers Market, Compass Health, Homes for Islanders, etc. With those entities, the county gave money, waived fees, or changed land use designations when asked. With community treasures, the county seems to have a policy to refuse to respond to written or verbal requests. In fact, county staff recommended disapproval of the 2013 conditional use permit that they forced us to apply for. But the hearing examiner, after hearing the wax on recycling and how the county can't, well actually I have copies of the wax and I can share that after the meeting if somebody would like. But basically the hearing examiner decided in our favor. And It also became clear that staff was working against community treasures by not honoring those state WACs and the past promises. And they put more financial and regulatory roadblocks up for the fourth conditional use permit than they did in our prior cups. So, 2014, County Council and staff continued stonewalling and having a deaf ear to community treasures communications and requests regarding essential public facilities issues and concerns. However, at the request of Bob Jarman at that time, a Public Works staff member offered to help community treasures with the planning department. The Public Works employee, Irwin, had several meetings with me to report on his progress. The progress reports turned out to be reports that the planning department refused to meet, help, or even follow the recommendations of Bob Jean, the county council's past motion and vote to support community treasures, or the Planning Commission's 2011 findings and recommendations. So, 2015. While it was 2016 that the trust announced to the public that Community Treasures was losing its lease, it was 2015 when the decision was made that the trust to move and dispose of the property the Community Treasures leases and uses. The conflicts and liabilities were getting to be too much. So here's some nuts and bolts surrounding 6 main reasons the decision was made in 2015 for the trust to untie itself from the Community Treasures liabilities and conflicts. Number 1 was the refusal for the county council to meet with Community Treasures and address the essential public facility concerns. And that was very troubling to me. And I've actually got a copy of the letter up here for anybody that really wants to get into the details. But I called the county council office 2 times, asked for private meetings, called the, what do they call that, the manager's office. Finally, to be fair, Bob Jarman, after a couple letters and some pushback, did have a short meeting with me. And the second reason is the misinformation given to the county council and the community by the leadership of the county planning department, as well as their unwillingness to communicate with community treasures. And I could go into another long tale there about when I was in Hawaii and they had on the agenda community treasures, and I get a call from Francine Shaw, the land use planner, saying, "Did you know there's a meeting? Community Treasures is on it?" And I'm over in Hawaii for my 2 months, and I said, "No." "Do you know what it's about?" She says, "No." So the meeting was in 10 minutes, and she went down and found out there was a whole bunch of misinformation. So that's why that's a problem. And 3, the community did not respond well to the Community Treasures evolution idea. And the basic premise of that idea that we put out was that the trust offered 1/3 of the value of the property to the nonprofit with some stipulations. Because the trust isn't in this to make money. I hope most of you know that the trust leases this property to the organization for $100 a month. So all those buildings and everything are leased to the property. Hold that.
No, can you just reiterate for each, Frank, I didn't get it.
I'll actually give you a copy of this,
Okay.
if you like. But 3 was the community did not respond well to the Community Treasures evolution idea. 4, there were some health issues and surgery for me that year. And I felt it's important for the community to take this on. And 5, there was no June marker. Part of the story I didn't tell you about on the Hawaii thing is I came very angry and I wrote a kind of a threatening letter to the planning department head and insisted she meet and answer 17 questions. Because she got lots of misinformation, gave lots of misinformation to the council and to the community. And I wanted to make sure she had her facts straight. So there was, and in that meeting she agreed that there would be a June marker. She finally seemed to get it and was going to, since she was on community treasurer's side. And of course, June came and went, no marker.
It's a marker.
I don't know, that was her word. And so in my second letter to her in June, I wrote, you used the word marker. I don't know what you meant, but it is now June. What was the marker? And no response, absolutely none. So therein lies a lot of unsaid things. And the sixth thing was recognition that there is support for multiple other nonprofit organizations and a lack of community treasurers' support for the CT recycling activities. So 2016 came along, and I tried to make community treasures an election issue, and I became a candidate. And despite my written statements, comments, and concerns, no news organizations reported or asked questions on the issue. The election either showed community complacency, a lack of support for the community treasures issues, or a statement of dislike for the way community treasures was operating, or who was operating it. In any case, at that time, the light bulb finally went on in my head. And look at that picture. It expresses how come I was feeling like Don Quixote fighting windmills. If I hadn't had all those elevation problems, it wouldn't be so bad. If that picture were going downhill, a person could push that ball pretty easy, no matter what the size. So I have come to understand that as long as I am willing to work as a volunteer for free, which I do out there, it's a very large hobby. And provide a place for recycling for $100 a month to the community, the county and the citizens will just happily go along for the ride and let the trust have all the liabilities and responsibilities. For $100 a month, that doesn't make much sense. So it's now obvious to me that the county's recycling needs and efforts have to be community driven rather than driven by one small private entity. I don't want it to look like enablement anymore. I favor giving a hand up over a handout. And while I have a passion for recycling, and it may have been a good intentioned idea, it was a personal mistake on my part because my frustrations eventually increased the conflict between the county and myself. And that has worked against the recycling cause, and that wasn't my intentions. It is my opinion that the community now needs to face the need to either form something like the Exchange for our island, or take it or leave it site for our island, or take over the existing foundation laid out by the Community Treasures Organization. So where does the community go from here? Well, I cannot speak to the idea of starting the Exchange or take it or leave it site here. I can summarize the possibilities raised at the Community Treasures Board meeting. And the Community Treasures Board has pretty much eliminated all but 2 of the 6 ideas they had. Number 1 was have the county purchase the property. Then they could be asked to lease the property back to the nonprofit for $100 a month, just as the trust does. And the second one was to have the nonprofit purchase the property themselves, but they lack the funds and are unsure of the community support. And it's my opinion that it will take a Citizens Advisory Board to convince the Community Treasures Board that either of these 2 options are viable options. An advisory board would need to be made up of interested and enthusiastic individuals, and they would need to vet the options and make a recommendation to the board. It would help to have some individuals who are well connected with the core group of islanders who have helped make other significant decisions in our community become realities. So January 31st, 2017 is the deadline in time wherein a decision on what to do with community treasures must be made. The community has core groups of people who pick winners and losers. If there is some way that can be found to weave the common interests of the 7 entities involved and involve some community-respected individuals and get them to choose to step forward to lead the process, then there is a chance that the established power brokers will work towards making the choice to continue the recycling activities that Community Treasures has established and promoted. What happens if Community Treasures site closes down? Well, the trust would move on and do one of two things to end their conflict with the county. The trust would either sell the property or open a business that is conforming. And I have a questionnaire here. Sage, maybe you could pass these out? And this is for you, the question is for you. And anyone who would like a copy of what I've said here, or some of the documentation, please put an asterisk by your name and I will email you the information, or mail it to you if you'd like. So I'd be happy to take some questions now.
Well, if you don't want to disclose who, how many are on the trust board?
The trust doesn't have a board. How many is on the Community Treasures board is, they're missing 2 seats right now. They have a 9-seat board. 7 members currently are on board. So that's one of the reasons for this questionnaire. We're looking for a couple more board members.
If the nonprofit purchases the property, what prevents them from having the same land use problems that you're having now?
They would have the same land use problems. The nonprofit has a leg up in several ways. It's become personal between the county and myself. And I don't fit the square plug for the Democrats, and I don't fit the square plug for the Republicans. If you saw the emails from both parties, which I did during the election, you could see why I came in under people who were here only a few years, and I've been here 40 years. An entity, nonprofit entity, doesn't carry the same baggage as an individual does. And an individual in an organization can be moved on. If they start creating problems for a nonprofit, a leader, they can just dispose of them very easily. And I can be disposed of on the board as well. But, you know, they're a little more sensitive to me because I have some control over the property. But they do have, you know, they have a leg up because they do actually make some money. So some of the money could go to the funds to buy it. The trust is not against financing it for them and carrying a contract. They have a 1/3 discount offered by the trust because the trust said they would match 1/3.
Any more questionnaires?
No, that's all there should be plenty of them.
How much is the property for sale for? Any
Well, in 2015, the board did do an appraisal on the property. And I think the property, do you remember, Dwight, exactly what it was? It was 800 and something thousand, if I remember right, the buildings on the property. And the equipment was 100 and something, because they don't own the equipment either. So, and that was one of the stipulations that we put in on it is we don't want to be stuck with the equipment. We want the whole thing as a package to go away. So, go ahead, one more question there.
Yes, you said that if CT closes down, the trust will sell the property